Happiness, or eudaimonia, is a concept that has been central to the philosophies of many ancient thinkers. Among the most influential are Aristotle and the Stoics, who both explored the nature of happiness and the means to achieve it. Despite their common goal of understanding the highest human good, Aristotle and the Stoics present significantly different perspectives on what constitutes true happiness. This video delves into these differences, exploring how each philosophy defines happiness, the role of virtue, and the importance of external goods. Both Aristotle and the Stoics regard eudaimonia, often translated as happiness or flourishing, as the ultimate aim of human life. For both schools of thought, eudaimonia is not simply a state of mind, but a way of living, one characterized by the development and exercise of excellent character. This idea contrasts with hedonistic views, which equate happiness with the pursuit of pleasure. Instead, Aristotle and the Stoics emphasize that true happiness is attained through virtue. Aristotle's concept of eudaimonia is rooted in the idea of fulfilling one's potential and living in accordance with reason. He views happiness as the result of living a life that expresses virtue, which he defines as a mean between excess and deficiency. For Aristotle, virtues like courage, temperance, and wisdom are essential for achieving eudaimonia because they enable individuals to act in accordance with their rational nature. The Stoics, on the other hand, define eudaimonia as living in harmony with nature and reason, which they see as the guiding principle of the universe. According to Stoicism, happiness is achieved by living virtuously, specifically by cultivating the four cardinal virtues: wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. For the Stoics, these virtues are sufficient for eudaimonia, as they align human life with the rational order of the cosmos. Aristotle and the Stoics both emphasize the importance of virtue in achieving happiness, but they differ in their understanding of how virtue relates to external circumstances. Aristotle argues that virtue, while necessary for eudaimonia, is not sufficient on its own. He contends that external goods, such as wealth, health, and friendships, are also necessary for a truly happy life. These external goods provide the conditions under which virtue can be fully expressed and exercised. Aristotle's famous doctrine of the golden mean illustrates his belief in the balance of virtues. He suggests that virtues lie between two extremes. For example, courage is the mean between recklessness and cowardice. This balance is context-dependent, requiring the right external circumstances to be maintained. For Aristotle, a person deprived of essential external goods, such as someone who is poor, sick, or friendless, may find it difficult to live virtuously and achieve eudaimonia. In contrast, the Stoics assert that virtue is not only necessary but also sufficient for happiness. They argue that eudaimonia can be achieved solely through the cultivation of virtue, regardless of external conditions. For the Stoics, the only true good is moral virtue, and everything else is indifferent to happiness. This includes not only material wealth and physical health, but also social status, relationships, and even life itself. The Stoic concept of preferred indifference helps clarify this stance. While the Stoics acknowledge that some external things, like health and wealth, are preferable to their opposites, they maintain that these things do not contribute to eudaimonia. Whether one possesses or lacks these preferred indifference, it is the rational choice to live virtuously that determines true happiness. The debate over the role of external goods in happiness marks a fundamental divergence between Aristotle and the Stoics. Aristotle insists that external goods are necessary to some extent for the full realization of eudaimonia. He argues that without certain external conditions, such as sufficient resources, social connections, and freedom from extreme misfortune, an individual may struggle to live virtuously. For instance, someone living in abject poverty or constant suffering may find it difficult to cultivate and practice virtues like generosity or temperance. Aristotle also believes that external goods contribute to eudaimonia by enabling individuals to engage in activities that express virtue. For example, friendship is considered an external good because it provides the context in which virtues like loyalty and kindness can be developed and displayed. In this sense, external goods are instrumental to living a life of virtue and, by extension, achieving happiness. The Stoics, however, reject the idea that external goods are necessary for eudaimonia. They argue that happiness is entirely within the individual's control and does not depend on external circumstances. According to the Stoics, a virtuous person can remain happy even in the face of adversity, as their happiness derives from their rational and moral character, not from their external situation. Stoicism teaches that external events are beyond our control and should be met with equanimity. The Stoic sage, an idealized figure who embodies perfect virtue, is unaffected by external goods or misfortunes. Whether they experience wealth or poverty, health or illness, the Stoic sage maintains happiness by living in accordance with reason and virtue. This radical independence from external conditions distinguishes Stoic eudaimonia from Aristotle's more contingent view of happiness. Aristotle's recognition of the role of external goods in happiness leads him to acknowledge the impact of tragedy and misfortune on an individual's ability to achieve eudaimonia. He argues that a life filled with extreme suffering or deprivation can hinder one's capacity to live virtuously. For example, someone who suffers a great loss or faces insurmountable obstacles may struggle to maintain virtues like patience or hope. In such cases, Aristotle suggests that happiness may be diminished or even unattainable. This perspective reflects Aristotle's broader understanding of the human condition as vulnerable to external forces. While virtue is central to happiness, it is not immune to the challenges and limitations imposed by the external world. Thus, for Aristotle, eudaimonia is an ideal that requires both internal virtue and favorable external circumstances. The Stoics, however, take a different view. They argue that happiness is a rational choice that remains accessible to everyone, regardless of their external circumstances. The Stoics believe that individuals have the power to choose how they respond to adversity, and that true happiness lies in maintaining virtue and rationality in the face of misfortune. For the Stoics, tragedy and misfortune are tests of character rather than obstacles to happiness. They teach that suffering and loss are opportunities to practice virtues like resilience, courage, and wisdom. The Stoic sage, who embodies perfect virtue, would remain steadfastly happy even in the worst of circumstances, as their happiness is rooted in their moral character, not in their external situation. The philosophical debate between Aristotle and the Stoics over the nature of happiness reveals two distinct approaches to the human quest for eudaimonia. Aristotle's view emphasizes the importance of both virtue and external goods, suggesting that true happiness requires a balance of internal character and favorable external conditions. He acknowledges that external circumstances can influence one's ability to live virtuously and achieve eudaimonia. In contrast, the Stoics advocate for a more radical understanding of happiness as something entirely within the individual's control. They argue that virtue alone is sufficient for eudaimonia, regardless of external circumstances. For the Stoics, happiness is a rational choice that can be maintained even in the face of adversity, as it depends solely on living in accordance with virtue. Ultimately, the choice between these two philosophies may depend on one's own perspective on the nature of the human condition and the role of external factors in the pursuit of happiness. Aristotle's approach offers a more balanced view that takes into account the complexities of life and the influence of external circumstances, while the Stoic perspective provides a powerful vision of inner resilience and moral independence. In exploring these contrasting views, we gain a deeper understanding of the different paths to eudaimonia and the ways in which ancient philosophers sought to answer the enduring question of what it means to live a truly happy life.